Welcome in to episode 2 of our Let's Play Ara History Untold series. This series focuses on kind of learning the game, exploring all the mechanisms, trying to figure out the nuances of strategy for Ara History Untold as a brand new 4X grand strategy style game. We are very early in the series, but if you would like to, in the description below is a link to episode 1 in the series. So if you missed the setting up of the game, all the settings, the game settings, the leader that we chose, which you'll see obviously, any of my initial thoughts on the game, and our opening couple of turns as we walked through initial strategies that I have proposed for Ara History Untold, you can check it out at that first episode. We'll continue to walk through kind of opening game strategies, at least that I've developed over the course of my kind of 45 plus hours playing the game thus far. Again, if you've got strategies that you would like to share, please feel free to comment down below. I would love to hear what your strategies are in your games of Ara History Untold as we jump into learning this game. I think sharing knowledge and what's worked really well for you is the best way to kind of gain our own strategies, kind of figure out your own play style based on knowing kind of what other people have done and how successful it's been. So with that, let's jump in to our very first game of Ara History Untold here on the YouTube channel. Episode 2 coming at you right now. We are here. Well, that's our scout. We are here in our capital city of Ciudad de Mexico and the city, Mexico City, and we are rocking and rolling. 6 turns in. Classic Madish Moose Let's Play style series where I've gotten 6 turns in one episode, but I feel like that's going to change as we go through. Ara plays a little bit differently than your kind of standard 4X genre game in that turns do kind of happen in kind of rapid succession. Once you get things kind of rolling, everything will kind of start to flow a little bit faster. There's fewer kind of decisions to make, I feel like, as you move through. I guess that's typical of most 4X strategy games. The early turns, you're making some critical decisions about where you want to go, why you want to go in that particular direction. I think in Ara specifically, in order to get the right kind of snowball effect going, right, you want to enact some pretty nuanced things at the beginning. I think rushing that first feast like we did to get the feast in as quickly as possible to enhance growth is really important. And so making decisions on how you're going to accelerate that, right, what different accelerants you're going to put on it, whether they're going to use the gold, whether they're going to use the money, how much of your money you're going to use in order to accelerate it, all of those things I think play a role obviously in getting off on the right foot, right? I think that type of thing is what's going to make a game of Ara History Untold successful, especially early game. When you can get ahead in growth in your cities, get your territories a bit faster, all of those things are going to create that snowball effect for you. And again, we are playing Benito Juarez, and Benito Juarez gets experts right away. And I'm just going to re-emphasize that I think that this is a very strong trait, right? If you look at our traits, we have Son of the People. Cities are founded with initial expert. That's pretty nice, as we found out, because we were able to cut a whole turn off of our feast at the beginning by putting an expert into our Great Hearth, right? So our Great Hearth currently has our expert in there. Gives us 150% craft improvement, and it gave us that 5 gold per turn bonus. That's huge at the beginning of the game. We went from like a gold deficit effectively over our first 6 turns to gaining 5 gold per turn, which was a big deal. And it allowed us to free up our food production as well during that period of time. So all of that plays very well into, again, that kind of slow rolling snowball and getting that started right away in a game of Ara History Untold, which I think is fantastic. So we are ready to hit our next turn button. Everybody has their orders. Our scouts moving into here. So we're about to uncover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 territories, because you always see what's in the territory adjacent to you with your scouts, at least at the site level that they have currently. So we'll be able to uncover a whole bunch of the map, I think, through this. And that will give us some ideas as to kind of what's going on. We appear to be on some sort of narrow continent that runs north-south right now. There are mountains below us, something over here that looks like mountains as well. So I don't know what exactly that's going to look like or how that's going to extend. We probably need to get our spearmen out pretty quickly to start doing hunts and exploring to the south a little bit as well. And then maybe another scout at some point to start picking up more of those caches, right? So that's kind of our build order. We have 1 turn left on our workshop. And yes, I did go with a workshop opener. I opened with a workshop. I am still convinced that this is a solid opening play. we're going to get to in one turn. We will be able to start crafting the things that we need to make improvements to our buildings and start crafting things we need to make maybe our first wonder and different things like that. Feel like it's a strong play. Maybe it's not as strong as going straight into a scout so we can start picking up more caches, but I don't know. I'm still learning and figuring out that part of the game. I think there's people that are running, again, we talked about this, but like triple scout openers. There's people that are running dwellings as their opener because that's going to increase your production as we go. Farms obviously are key. We're going to go put some farms in as soon as we expand. Farms are really good for growth as food, obviously, as well. So we're going to want to get to that. But I don't know. We're going with the workshop opener. We're going to see how it plays for us. Let's hit next turn button and we'll cruise on in turn number 7 and see all of our yields getting through, and we have our workshop is done. There it is. The workshop, it's got all the people working in it already. And we can craft baskets, and we can craft lithic tools. Now, lithic tools are going to be, I think, the first thing that's going to be useful for us. We can put lithic tools into our workshop, which will then give us a 25% craft product improvement in this. So we can use lithic tools to build more lithic tools faster, essentially, right? So we want to get to that as quickly as we can. We can also put lithic tools into other pieces of the puzzle. I think lithic tools also can go into our Great Hearth. So we want to craft some lithic tools to get us kick-started here. Baskets will come in to play once we have some dwellings and different things like that. Dwellings will be, we will make use of those at some point. So let's just craft one at a time. We'll kind of see how it goes. To craft lithic tools, we can spend 1 material, which we're only gaining 1 material right now per turn. We could just go double wealth, to be honest, and keep the materials rolling in. That might feel good. Might feel good to keep at least that +1 going, and we'll just cut back on our gold a little bit for now. Once we get a couple of these out, we'll probably pull some of that gold back, and maybe even once we own our first territory and we're gaining more materials per turn, we'll be able to flip-flop that around a little bit. But for now, let's craft 1 and get 1 out as quick as we can using gold. We'll put it into the workshop so we can build the next one a little faster. And after that, we won't actually need 1 to put into something, right? We need 1 to put into our workshop. So we want to make sure we get that done. And we also need 1 to put into our Great Hearth up here. So you can put a lithic tool in here as well. So that's kind of what the goal is like, let's get those supplies in as quickly as possible so that we can enhance the buildings that we already have in the game, right? So that's currently our plan. So the next couple things that we might want to build, as we know that we have to select a project now because our workshop is done, is we may want to build stuff like a farm. We may want to build stuff like a dwelling, different things like that. We're about to grow in 3 turns. Again, we have plenty of housing to handle that growth right now, so the dwelling is not a key thing that we need. However, what I do think we need is to get that spearman out and running. The other option would be, right, like we actually have enough food if we wanted to like drain our food supplies completely. We have enough food to actually build another settler right away. Cities getting out faster in this game is nice. You do have a city cap. We can only build 3 cities currently. You can see our city cap right down here in the corner. That's the city cap button number right here. So there's no limiter except for that. And so once you can build a settler, like sometimes it's nice to just get a settler out there. You don't lose population for building a settler. They are expensive, right? 125 food. It's going to take us a while to get back up in food to that. And so the problem becomes then when you have other buildings that maybe require some food or require food as maintenance, as you grow, you need more food, right? In order to build a dwelling, we actually need 25 food. We wouldn't even have that if we decided to build a settler right now. So I'm going to hold on the settler idea for now. We're going to commit to the spearman idea. We're going to go with a spearman to get the hunts done, do a little bit of exploration to the south. Also gives us at least 1 start to a military force in case we encounter any sort of interesting, very early game scenarios. So let's grab a spearman. It's a quick 5-turn build. We'll get that out quickly. And then at that point, we can determine whether we're going to go into another scout, whether we're going to go into a farm if we've expanded already, and that kind of thing. So I think we're in that like critical decision-making place where we have to make choices about what's going to start to snowball us the most. I think these hunts are going to become important to get done, and we have a lot of really easy hunts that could net us some potentially really good resources. And so we want to be able to get those done. And a little extra exploration would not hurt for sure on this particular continent. When we get that exploration done, I think that will help us determine whether we're going to get that next scout. Because if, for example, we run into the top of this continent, which we are not, right? It looks like we've got plenty of space up here as well. And we can't really tell. One of the things that I actually really like about Ara is I can't tell, based on where I'm at now, I have no idea if I am north of the map, south of the map, right? I don't know. I can't like pull to the top or anything like that like you can in some other 4X strategy games, kind of figure out like, oh, okay, like this is going to be the top of the continent or this is going to be the bottom of the continent. There might be some idea of that. I haven't figured out yet how much like snow on the map has to do with being at the north or the south. This could be more southerly, potentially, but we also just have mountains here, right? And mountains, as you know, in the real world, mountains with altitude comes snow. And so this could be in the middle of the map as well, just depending on kind of what that is. So again, look at this effect. Look at the effect of just like little bits of snow. It looks so good. Snow that kind of creeps up the mountain a little bit. I love the look of their snow in this game. I think it looks really, really good. You compare it to something like other game I play a lot of is City Skylines 2, where the snow is like a really nice feature in that game, but the way the snow kind of happens, the way it ends up looking on things is like, oh man, like this is so much more natural feeling as far as like where the snow is falling and the fact that it's kind of like patched around in different things throughout the land. That feels good, right? And then there's no snow once you get kind of down away from the mountains. Like, makes sense, right? So I really like, again, look and feel of this game. Look and feel is very, very nice. All right, workshop is done. We selected our next project. We do have a unit idle. We have found yet another wolf. And so that is interesting. So we got another wolf over here. So again, lots of hunts to do. And then I'm almost, so if our spearman goes down here, we can uncover some of this. I don't want my scout to get too far away. So I think maybe we keep cutting across this way. See what happens with this water. What does this water do? Because it looks like it moves out this way a little bit. Do we have space here? There's somebody else over there. So let's keep moving in this direction. Won't go too far up yet. And we'll see kind of what happens. We're looking for caches, really, is what we're doing. So let's get moving into this area. That will give us some exploration over here. Tell us kind of what maybe is happening on that part of the map as well. So we can keep an eye on that as we go. 4 turns for that lithic tool, and we'll be able to place that into our workshop to get our lithic tools out a little bit faster. There's a cache. Perfect. So now we know where we need to go. We have another hunt, another wolf hunt, and it looks like there is land over here. So there's a river here, and the land comes out. So we actually have a lot more space than we probably initially thought, because we're at like the narrow point of this continent, it looks like right now, right? So conveniently, there's a little connection point here, so we could jump right into this territory. That's going to be a really nice, going to uncover a lot of fog for us as well. We don't mind that at all, and we'll be growing shortly. And we're ready to go right next turn already, so very quickly, we don't have to mess around with anything, and we can just press that next turn button. Our first research has been complete. Animal husbandry was our first research tech that we chose, which again, I think is probably the play here at the beginning. We've got access to plows now, so we can improve our farms. We can make cured meats if we put the butcher shop in. The cured meats are pretty good. I think they're a really good kind of second amenity when your cities get that big. You get plus 10 food, plus 10 prosperity, and plus 10 happiness. Now, the difference here is, whereas feasts last for 10 turns as an amenity, these cured meats only last for 4 turns as an amenity, and then they are gone. So you do have to craft them at a pretty rapid pace in order to keep feeding your cities these cured meats. But as long as you have access to some meat, like actual, like, so if you have cattle, if you have fish, if you have sheep, if you have different like pieces of the puzzle, right, from a meat standpoint, from a source standpoint, you can actually accelerate those cured meats in the butcher shop very quickly. If you don't have those, it takes quite a while to craft things, or it gets really expensive. But you can see, we now have access to camel, horses, elephants, bison, ivory, hogs, sheep, cattle, domestic goats, llamas, and venison. All of those things are now accessible to us. So this is why I think animal husbandry is a good opening tech. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. And what we'll be able to check, now that's done, is do we have any of those on the map around us? And it actually doesn't look like we have much, right? So we talked about how there was cattle over here. So we do have cattle. That is going to be an important resource for us in order to like do things like get the cured meats out a little bit faster. So we have cattle. We know that we have some fish way up here and on the coast. We have sheep over here, which we already knew about, but we did not uncover much of anything else, which is a little bit concerning. So we don't see any horses as of yet. Scroll up to here. We have a meteorite here, which will be useful later. We have copper up here, which will be useful later. We did not uncover much in the way of resources from animal husbandry, just the cows over here. That's going to take us a bit to get over there to get to those cows. So little bit problematic potential. I was hoping for something to proc maybe in our vicinity a little bit closer so we don't have to like reach over there, because we're definitely going, I think, to these grapes next. That or the rice. Both of those are going to be, I think, pretty valuable. So one of those two things will be where we go next. But then we'll have to start making our way over to the cattle, I think, just because the cattle is going to be an important claim for us. Both the cattle and the sheep, I think, will be very useful. Getting wool is really nice. Getting cattle is very nice because, again, you can craft out those cured meats a little bit faster for your place. Okay, we get to choose our next tech. We can't harvest rice unless we do grain storage. We can't make a lot of use of the grapes unless we get fermenting. And fermenting isn't like a hypercritical tech necessarily, except that it gets you access to wine, which does increase your city happiness by quite a bit. It does decrease your city knowledge, though. So I love this. They've been very kind of true to form with the techs and with the amenities and things. So if you're providing your city, if you're providing your people with wine, they are happy, but they maybe don't make as smart of decisions. So they lose a little bit of that city knowledge, which is, I think, kind of a fun fact. Like they've been kind of true to form with a lot of this stuff. But I think rope making might be our next best thing. And that is because rope is just a very valuable commodity. It helps with a lot of wonder builds. It helps with a lot of things. Grain storage is also really big. The granary is huge. So you could debate between rope making and grain storage here. I don't think I'm going to go to this rice tile first. I think I'm going to go to the grapes, in which case I don't really need the access to the granary, although the granary is really good for food production. And so it's tempting to go this way because then we can actually grab this rice, get the granary in, and put a bunch of farms in this district. I'm wondering how many territories are there. We're going to grow in a turn, and then we'll kind of learn a little bit more. I'm going to go rope making first, because rope making also gets us access to the logging camp. I don't think we're going to be putting a logging camp in anytime soon either. You know what? We're making lithic tools right now anyway. I've changed my mind. We're making lithic tools anyway. I'm going to go grain storage. We're going to go grain storage, and then we'll go into rope making. The grain storage will get us access to potentially building these grain stores. They are very nice for growth. Very, very nice for growth. So I think that that's probably a better decision, even just to get access to that as an amenity, which would be a good idea. Plus, it'll give us the option to go to this rice in case we want to go this way instead of to the grapes to be able to get some grain. And grain will allow us to build a granary, and granaries are also very good for food production. So, okay, I think that's probably the way to go, right? All right. We can pick up this cash now. Let's do that. And we have reached a population milestone. So we get to do our first expansion on our city. In fact, we probably should have checked that before we went through all of the rigmarole in my head that I just went through, because now we actually get to see what the territories around us look like a little bit. So we got 2 turns to spearman. We can press this button here. If you have an exclamation mark, if there's an exclamation mark here, if there's an exclamation mark here, make sure you click on those, because that means that there's something available to you to do in your city. So this is our claim a region. So we already know kind of what our regions looks like because we've been looking at that. So both of these regions over here have 4 zones. And so that's one thing we're looking for, right? How many zones do we have? This is a 6 zone, and this is a 5 and a 5. So we have some really nice territories around us because those are much more valuable, say, than a 2. In fact, this 2 right here is a perfect location for a triumph. When we start to talk about triumphs or wonders, the triumphs in this game take up an entire territory. And so when you're looking at the land around your cities, if you're thinking about building a triumph, you need to take note that a two zone territory is a pretty valuable place to put a triumph, because the triumph uses the entire territory. All the zones in that territory are taken up by that triumph. So for example, if you were to put a triumph in this territory, it has 6 zones in it. All 6 of those zones can no longer be built in. The triumph is the only thing that will go there. So when you are looking to grab a territory to put a triumph in, you're really IDing what are those territories that are pretty low value territories for me. Now, you'll still get the yields out of that territory, so you're still going to get the food, the timber, the materials, and the wealth, but then you will not get to build any buildings in that territory except for the triumph. So this territory right here is a fantastic example of one that's going to be a perfect spot to put a triumph later on in the game. The rest of these territories are pretty nice. These 4s are okay. The 5s are great, and the 6 is amazing. 6 is the highest number of zones you can have in a territory, and so we can put 6 buildings It's 6 improvements, right, into this particular territory, which is really, really nice. Either of these, this 4 or this 4, would work very well for a granary and a farm. I'm actually kind of gonna go back on kind of what I was saying. I think our granary actually probably needs to go into this territory. The granary benefits the farms that are in the territory and produces food as a percent based off of the farms that are there. And so the best granary spot is one where you can put as many farms in as possible. And so this territory here, I think, becomes a granary farm territory. If we're going to look to maximize the usage of different pieces of our empire, if we want to put a granary in, you can only put 1 granary in per city. We only put 1 in per city. So we want to put it in a territory that get the most possible farms. And so this is a 3 food tile. We have a 4 food up here. That's pretty nice. But we don't know if that's got the 6. In fact, there's no way it's going to, right? So we have other 4 food ones, but a 3 food where we can put some quick farms down actually feels really good. Now, we don't have access to our granary yet, and I think we're going to grow pretty rapidly. So I actually think maybe we grab access to the rice, because that's going to get us grain. The grain allows us to build the granary, which we have to have. We have to have the grain, otherwise we can't build the granary. It requires the grain to build it. And then once we have the grain, we can put the granary over here and then load this area up with farms. I think that's probably the gameplay. So I think we're going to go here first to get access to the grain from the rice. Then we're going to go here, and then we can choose to go to the cattle or the sheep. Probably the cattle as we head over in this direction. So I think we go here, and then here. But I think we need access to this rice for the grain. And obviously we'll grab access to the grapes as well, but we probably don't need that right away. The grain from the rice is going to give us access to our granary, which then we're going to put in this territory. We're just going to stack farms in that territory. So I think that's the play for us here. So let's claim this one first. It's going to give us access to being able to do some of the things we want to do. That will happen on the next turn. On the next turn, we'll have that build. We're going to put a farm on the rice right away once we get to that point, right? So probably we're going to hold on that scout or that settler until we get that farm on the rice. And then we'll start working our way back over here. We'll start doing hunts and different things and clearing way for the rest of our builds. Okay. Next turn. So that was a lot of thinking for what probably ended up being an easier decision than it needed to be. All right, we have claimed a region, so you can now see our empire has expanded, and we now include all of this in the territory, so that feels good, and we'll be able to put a farm on this rice to improve the rice that we're getting out of it. That rice actually will not be, we won't be able to extract the rice through the farm until we research grain storage, right? Because right here you can see it unlocks harvesting of rice grain from the rice. So we can put a farm on the rice, I believe, but we won't actually get the additional extraction of that grain, so the extra bonuses of the rice we will not get until we actually get the tech researched. And we're probably gonna have the tech researched before we get the farm installed anyway. All right, there we go. So we get all of the resources from that. We automatically that adds into our empire, right? So 3 food, 1 timber, 2 materials, and 2 wealth. So again, not quite as good as what this territory would have been, but still pretty decent. We have crafted our first lithic tools. Why did that go up there? Oh, we got a lithic tools in our cache. Even better. So we got our lithic tools early. So that's what I'm talking about with the caches being important, right? The first few caches we've got in this game have just been like FIMS resources, like food. I think we got food. I think we got materials, which is nice. Like, it's nice to get those. Obviously, we spend those at a pretty rapid pace when we're building in buildings and units and things like that. But to get a lithic tools right away is pretty nice, because now we can jump right into our workshop and we can add our lithic tools. So this lithic tools is going to give us a 25% craft production at this improvement. So right away, we're gonna get that 25% bonus by putting the lithic tools in. There we go. So now we have a 25% production bonus to our crafting. So now we can build our lithic tools even faster as we're looking to produce those different things. We also have access to plows right away. So after we get this next lithic tool out, which we can put in our great hearth, we'll probably build a plow so that our first farm will immediately have a plow to be able to put in it to increase the production of that farm that we decide to put it in. So 1 turn left on our spearmen. We have an idle unit, so we'll jump up here. And I think we'll just keep cutting across. I think we'll cut across here, and see. We'll just see what's going on. Looks like there's a river up here that might create probably. My assumption is there's going to be someone else up here somewhere. So let's cut this way, and we'll see kind of what's going on in this direction. Our spearman is going to come down here, probably hunt here first, so we'll get some idea of what's happening below us, and then we'll start just kind of walking around doing hunts with the spearmen as we go. And then again, if we need to, we could have this scout come back down, or more likely we'll build another scout to do southern scouting. I think 2 scouts in this game feels about right. We go north with one, south with the other, and the spearman stays to do all of the hunting as we go. All right. We've met a tribe, and now our other feature, our other leader trait, tribes will never be initially hostile towards you. Our son of the people trait of Benito Juarez comes through into play. We can see we already start with a nice friendly status. What all that says is they'll never start hostile to you, but tribes will often start hostile towards you until you start doing some of the events. This is going to be a large bonus for us because if we can assimilate this tribe, the Merida tribe, into our town, our city, we get a lot of population boost, sometimes even a problematic amount of population boost because you can grow way faster than you thought you were going to, and then you might actually need a dwelling faster than you thought you were going to need a dwelling, right? So that's nice. So it looks like we got this bay is really cool. There's land that comes all the way out here, so we have kind of a true bay that's forming right here, and it looks like, again, like this looks like mountains. So I think we've got a really cool looking geography kind of popping up around where we are. We'll have to kind of start deciding where we're going to put our next city and maybe some other cities as we go. We'll talk about maybe the strategy behind that as we do that as well. We had some sheep here. That is intriguing because that tempts you to grab these sheep instead of those sheep. I think we're still going to stick with the plan. We're going to grab this next for the granary and the farms. We're going to grab this for the cow. And I think rather than going up here, I think we actually extend over here to this sheep probably. Because we get access to this sheep as well, but this is easier. We'll create a full border across here just in case we need that for border control purposes. But I think that's probably a pretty smooth idea so that we have control over a section of the map with our border. So if we enforce borders, then people can't necessarily cross up here. Like if there's no one up here and we want all this land, we can enforce a border right here, or vice versa. We can enforce a southern border and put more cities down here. So that's something to think about when you're starting to expand your city, is can you do that? Obviously, there's water that they can go around eventually when they research that tech, which you can get to like relatively quickly, but at least you provide some sort of border control protection kind of early on in the game. It always makes me feel good. Maybe that's just an aesthetic thing for me. We're the first to discover this tribe, so that's nice to know because no one else has been over here, right? We haven't discovered any other civilizations yet. We crafted a feast, and we crafted a lithic tool. So that's good. We have our second lithic tool. So I always, right when I see that, I always go right to the building that I know I need a lithic tool in. Go ahead and put it in. Plus 25% craft production. Again, right? So we'll get our feast out a little bit quicker. We also need to choose what to build. We have a feast. We have a feast in 4 turns. We could, at this point, try to pop a jewelry out. Now, it takes 12 turns to build one of these. We're going to need a feast in... 10 or 14 turns. We're going to need another feast. So we need to be able to craft another feast. And then we need the ability to make some. So maybe what we do, instead of trying to craft the jewelry, let's not. Well, actually, let's not delete it, though. Let's put the feast in. We're going to go 1 feast. We're going to go 1 jewelry after the feast. We're going to go 1 feast using the same method. We're going to do a 6-turn feast. Maybe even more, because we've got some extra stuff now. So maybe we use the food. I want to keep making the food because eventually we're gonna have to build settlers and we're gonna want to stockpile that food. We could put 2 more wealth towards it, get it out a little faster. We don't have any grain yet to put towards it. I don't want to spend the 5 wealth for another 25. So let's go a feast in 5 turns, and then we'll do a jewelry after that. And you can see really quickly for jewelry, it's insanely expensive, right? 10 wealth per turn to build it. That increases your production by 100%, right? But it's 10 wealth or precious stones or ivory to build jewelry. 12-turn build is kind of hefty, so we may even like come in and do this when we get there, because it's like a quick 4 turns where you're losing that 10 gold per turn, but you get the jewelry out really fast. Like I'll set that up because I think it will do what we want it to do. We'll check it when we get there, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, the reason I left this jewelry in and didn't just delete it is actually because production does carry over. And so if there was any extra production, because I actually clicked the jewelry in, any leftover production would have gone into that. It's usually very minimal from what I can tell, but there is kind of a production rollover from the way I understand it. So I left it in just in case any production already went towards it. I don't know how you could tell that that has happened, like if it's been any production has gone towards it, but supposedly that is a feature of the game. So we know what our project is going to be. Our spearman is out and ready for mustering, so we'll talk about that in just a moment as well. But let's get our farm out. We want to get our first farm done. Probably need to go farm into dwelling at some point here, and then we got to start thinking about, again, scout settler. Scout settler has got to start entering our mind here as we start to talk about this, but again, dwelling is going to come into play. We're at 2 of 5. We want to make sure we keep that up, and dwellings get other bonuses like increased production and stuff like that as well. So let's start with a farm. Farms get us plus 100% of region food yield is applied toward harvest production. We get 3% city growth, and this is where I always regret maybe not building a farm a little bit sooner. That additional 3% city growth, just because it's a farm, yeah, it's pretty nice, right? When you're looking to grow faster. So a farm opener is another viable strategy because of that city growth. And so, like, do you want to open with a farm? Probably. I think you want to get a farm in as soon as possible. The way we're doing it, I feel like makes a ton of sense as far as just kind of optimizing land in our empire. Because now we definitely on the rise, we're going to put a farm on it, right? So this farm is not like a wasted farm. Whereas if we put a farm in our city center, probably want that back at some point. We're probably going to end up deleting it to put a dwelling in for that bonus housing or one of the other buildings that is beneficial to city centers. So something to think about anyway as far as that goes. So again, we'll get the farm out. And then we'll start thinking about scout, settler, dwelling. Where are we at when we get to that point, right? Unit idle. We are up here. So I think we just keep pushing past. I regret not knowing what's here a little bit. But I guess we'll find that out maybe later. So let's cross over here and we'll keep exploring a little bit. All right. Craft queue is empty. Oh, right. We need to craft. We got lithic tools in both our buildings. We're building a farm, and so we want to get a plow as one of our next things. So obviously that takes 24 turns to build. It's not great, but we can get plus 250 production towards it if we throw cattle or horses, which is why I was kind of hoping there was going to be horses or cattle close to us, because again, this is going to get very expensive. 25 wealth per turn to get this 250. Like, so we can put it in. We get it in 2 turns, but that's 50 gold that we would be losing that we might otherwise have, which is kind of problematic. So we might just give the 25%. We could just use materials for it. We get it in 11 turns. The farm is going to take 10 turns to put in. I kind of wonder if we boost this by the 25, and then once we can boost it by the gold just one time, then maybe we get it out like on a next turn kind of basis. So let's set this to 1. And we'll see how it goes. We'll put it on materials there, and then we'll just kind of rock and roll with that for a little bit. And then again, we might like pop the gold in for a turn, and then get it out, and just once the farm is actually there, right? We don't need to rush it before that. So we'll go with that. Sorry, accelerate it before. The rush is on the builds for the building. The accelerate is on the craft production, right? Reserves added. We have a spearman that has been added to our reserves. So our spearman was built, and this is where you start to understand how military works in Ara History Untold. So our spearman is in our reserves. So when you craft a military unit outside of scouts are automatically deployed. And actually scouts don't count as military forces either. They go on and do their own thing. The spearman is a military unit that goes into your reserves. Once they are in your reserves, they need to be deployed out into the field. So they take a turn or 2 to muster out of the city. So they are trained, and then they have to gather and muster out of the city. So our spearman is in reserves right now. We want to deploy him into a squad. Later on, you'll see that there are battalions that we can create. We can create them in different formations based on things that we've researched. Those formations will have different bonuses throughout the game that give them, increased strength in different scenarios. So we're just going to form a squad. It's just a single unit. So we're going to form a squad out of the spearman. We're going to put him out there, and we're going to hit the deploy button. This is going to cost us 1 food per turn to have a deployed unit. I don't believe they cost you anything when they are in your reserves, as far as I know. Once they're deployed, that's when you start getting the cost. So we're going to deploy our spearman into a squad, and we will have our first military unit out on the board on whatever turn that is. Like, I don't know how many turns it takes to muster. We'll see on the next turn. I think it's we end this turn, it musters over the next, and we get him in the next turn or something like that. So we'll see how that happens. Go. Yeah. So now we see they are now mustering. So we see that there's the green bar is halfway now. So we are halfway out into our muster. So it takes us 2 turns to get out essentially with the spear. So there you go. Now we have that 4 turns left on our farm. And again, we have 10 turns left on our plow. But the question is, I want to kind of check this as we go, right? Because we have 10 turns because we've put some production towards it now. What happens if we put the wealth into it now? Once this goes to 1 turn, I think it's worth spending the 25 gold to get it out early. If our farm is ready. If our farm's not ready, then I don't think we want to do that, right? That's kind of the trade-off there, right? All right, we do have an idle unit. We're come over here. Let's see what we see. There's the fog. We have furs up here from foxes, so that's not a bad deal. And then I think I'm just going to keep coming south here. I kind of want to see how this plays out down here. So let's move into this territory next. I haven't seen any other caches to kind of drive us in a direction. Usually I'm using the caches to determine where I want to go with a scout. But there we go. So mustering has begun. Here we go. Our spearman is ready, or about to be ready to get out there. You can see that this particular one is only going to take the next turn, and we should have access to them here when we hit the next turn button. There goes turn number 12, and we're now into turn number 13, and there is our first military unit. Our spearman is out and about. They have mustered. So that is how the military creation system works. You train, you craft the unit, you build the unit. They are then in your reserves. You activate them from your reserves into a deployed formation. And now that they have mustered, they go through that turn or 2 of mustering. And now that they have mustered out of your city, they are ready for action, right? So now they can go and do things. We did discover a new cache now, so that's nice. And that's going to drive our exploration deeper into this land. And now we start to see this is looking like a lot of land. So we're going to have a neighbor. At some point, we're going to have a neighbor over here. There's way too much land not to potentially have a neighbor. So let's see what we can do. We're obviously going to go grab this cache because, again, if we have a neighbor, we want to grab caches before they can because that's a competitive process. Caches are valuable, so they're going to be going after them with their scouts as well. We haven't run into anyone else's scouts, so that's the good news as far as, like, we're not crowded yet in this direction. We have not explored south at all, which is something that I've noticed as it's a strategic issue that I have had, because I open with 1 scout, I only explore 1 direction to start with, and so I actually don't know much about what's happening below me right now. Could have a neighbor really close, and I wouldn't know. Now, until we get ready to put our second city out, I'm not sure how important or not important that is, right? When we start to get our second city ready, we may want to settle in a direction based on where we might get forward settled. If there's a particular spot that we want, we may want to settle in the direction of our neighbor, or we can settle wherever we want based on the fact that there are no neighbors, right? All right, so we got a cache. We are moving over to it. We have an idle unit. That is our spearman. I'm going to move down here because that will at least get us access to seeing quite a bit more. Just the move down into this territory is going to open up a bunch of fog for us. Then we'll get a hunt done on this wolf, and we'll see how that process works as well. So there goes our spearman. Here's the unit. There they are. There's a bear right there. Look at that guy. Hanging out. Watch out for that bear. Don't disturb him, okay? What's this guy doing? He's out of formation. What's up, dude? So I like little things like that. Very effective from the top level to be able to just do what you need to do. But then if you want to see all the nuance and detail, then you can jump in and see that detail. And it's all realistic size kind of on the map too, which is kind of fun. Different from, say, like Civilization, where your units appear as like monstrosities, like giants on the map, which again, works very well. And like visually, that's appealing in Civilization because you can always see the types of units, you can see where you are and different things like that. The icons, I think, it's just a different take on it, but I like how when you zoom in, everything appears in a much more kind of realistic sense, as opposed to what you see in Humankind in Civilization with the kind of larger units that are kind of meandering around on the map. Okay, here we go, next turn. Turn 14, we have moved into this territory, and now we get to see, oh, it's lovely because it actually just stops. This is the end of the territory on this end, so now we know that we have some freedom over here. That would have been lovely information to have before. Turns out we made a great decision by sending our scout this way, because this would have been a waste of turns anyway. There also, I see no caches currently, so we didn't miss out on a cache by sending our scout out there. This is very fortuitous. We also have another wolf to hunt, and all of this is, unless, again, this territory extends this way, which it certainly could, Not saying it couldn't, but right now, with the mountain here, it looks like we have a pretty nice little area that's just kind of our space. Again, slightly problematic because I do not see any resources as of yet. So no horses, no additional cattle, no additional gems or any sort of things. Some of that we can't see on the map yet, but a little bit sparse. A little bit sparse currently in our land, but we'll see. What you'll notice is, so mountains cannot be claimed. These territories also cannot be claimed, so you can't claim this rocky area. Will just be kind of an empty space essentially on the map. It's not a claimable territory. It doesn't have any. You'll see if we put the yields on. It has no yields, so it's just an unusable territory essentially. We can't build improvements on it. Therefore, the game just has. It's an aesthetic only kind of thing. You also can't walk through these, which is kind of interesting as well. At least you can't, to my knowledge, currently walk through those. So there you go. All right, we have an idle unit. Our scout, we're going to grab the cache that we found, and then I guess I want to head south. I kind of want to feel like this looks like it curves. So we'll see if that continues to curve out and kind of form the bottom half, the bottom kind of border of our continent on the coast. We'll see if that's true. And we're going to initiate our first hunt. So we're going to hunt the wolf. You'll notice this wolf requires 1 hunt. It has a danger level of 2. There's a 50% chance for each unit in the forest to lose 10 health points, or they will lose 5 hit points. You always lose health when you do a hunt. You either lose a portion of it, or you use double the portion of it. So if the hunt goes poorly, but there's a 50% chance that the hunt goes poorly, then you will lose 10 health instead of losing to 5. So it's always nice for those to go, the RNG to go in your favor in those hunts, because then you can hunt more before you have to stop and heal, essentially. You never want to go into a hunt where if you lose like maximum health in the hunt, your unit will die, because losing a unit in a hunt just doesn't make any sense. So always make sure that if there's a possibility that you would lose 10 health and your unit's only at 10 health, don't do that hunt, go heal, and then go do the hunt again, because you might as well not have that unit die in a hunt, right? The other thing to make note of with the hunt, right, is it's a 50% chance for each unit in the force to lose 10 health points. If you send an army to go do hunts, every unit in the army loses health. I do not advise hunting with armies because it's not a very effective use of those armies' hit points, essentially. They don't clear it any faster. They don't do any better at the hunt. I think that's an area where they could improve. I don't think it's been thought all the way through. Again, some units can't hunt, and so you want to pay attention to that. But the fact that you can send a pretty advanced triple unit army, like in a wedge formation, to hunt some wolves, and it will still take 1 turn, and they will still have a 50% chance to lose 10 hit points apiece. It feels a little bit weird when you get into kind of the nuance of that part of it. So anyway, we'll execute our first hunt. You'll see the little hunt symbol appear on the top of our unit. That is the symbol, by the way. If you see that symbol on your unit within the build structure, that's the symbol that says that unit has the capability to do hunts, right? There are some units that don't, so just be careful if you're planning on using a unit for a hunt that you know that the unit can actually do that. Let's jump back to our workshop. I want to check on this plow again, see if we can use the wealth, get it down to 1 turn. We can't yet. So again, we'll keep it empty, and we'll keep just putting production towards it. We still have 2 turns left on the farm anyway, so it's not like we need the plow like instantaneously. And then I think we are ready to rock. Next turn, we have researched our grain stores, and our granary are available. The granary, I believe, is where we craft the grain stores, so we won't be able to actually craft the grain stores until we get access to the granary, and we're not going to build the granary until we have access to that 6 zone territory. But once this farm is in on the next turn, it will actually be picking up the rice grain for us, which will give us the ability to craft the granary, which will be another thing to add to our list of what do we want to craft next in our city after we get this farm done. Once we grow, do we go to the granary? What are we doing? All right, so we have a lot of decisions to make. I think we already chose rope making is kind of our next best thing. We want access to build rope. Rope is another thing that's going to be helpful for us. The lumber mill is also, or the logging camp is also going to come in to be an important thing for us as well. So that's actually something we have to think about with expansion as well. None of these really deserve a logging camp. There's not enough timber. But if we look down here, this is where our 3 stacks of timber start to come into play. So we want to buy up one of these and then stack all of our lumber mills in kind of these territories down here. Probably this one, because I think that one was like a 5. So we put like 5 lumber mills in here. I think you can put a sawmill in at some point to enhance those lumber mills or something. We'll play around with that when we get there, right? But access to lumber mills, I think, is important as we go through the game. So I'm going to go ahead and put rope making as our next tech that we get. Walk our way into that. We also collected some furs, so 1 fur and 5 food from that predator. So you can see the results of a hunt are nice because it gets you a fur. Typically, that's usually what you're going to end up getting. But you get other things from different animals. But you also get some food from those. So as you do hunts, you gain food, which is going to give you the ability to craft more settlers and different things with that food eventually. We got a cache. Ooh, this cache was really nice. We got 20 materials, 2 metal ingots, which will be huge when we start crafting, when we start building advanced military units. And we got a sculpting material. All of those things will be very useful later on in the game. And we lost only 5 health. So there's the 5 health. It was either 5 or there was a 50% chance to lose 10. We had a very successful hunt. We only lost 5 health on that hunt. So that feels pretty good when we get to that. And our new feast is being consumed in Mexico City. So there we go. I'm not going to go down and hunt this wolf yet. I think I want to go clear these guys first. Maybe get a little bit more exploration in. So what we're going to do is actually move. We can see this. These are connected. So that's nice. We can move from here to here. That will give us more sight lines, and that will move us towards these wolves that we want to end up clearing when we get access to those. So let's move those guys over there. We have a unit idle over here. Oh, and here is a nice territory. Horses and goats in the same territory. We also have some pigs up here. All of this looks really nice, and so perhaps a second city settle might be nice in this direction. Somewhere over here where we can gain access to a bunch of these different resources. That looks to be a probable second city settle spot for us, right? Right now, we've got this kind of on lock with our capital city. We could go up here with another settle near this river, probably would be a good idea. And maybe even something in between here. But I think something over here makes a lot of sense for us now that we've seen some of the resources available to us over here from a settle standpoint. I'm going to move back, actually, into this territory and clear out some of this just so we can start to see what's happening. We cleared that cache, so this will get us some viewpoints here. We'll kind of get a good feel of what's happening on this section so we can plan out where that second city maybe needs to go. We have a lot of gold kind of stacking up and a lot of food, which is good because we're going to use that at some point. For our next turn. Let's check once again on this. Our farm is in now. So if this can one-turn our farm, which it can. Sorry, if this can one-turn our plow, I think that this is going to be useful. So there we go. So we're going to spend now the extra gold. And actually what we could probably do, because this is one turn, we could probably actually remove this. We don't have to spend that anymore. We can still get it in one turn. We're going to get the plow in one turn. We're going to spend the 25 wealth, which is a helping, but we have enough to spare to accelerate this plow out in one turn and be able to put it into our farm to get it increased. And then we'll start crafting things that don't require such a huge investment. Probably some more lithic tools or something that's going to be useful for us. That's good. We got a feast crafted. So that's good. Our farm is complete. You can see the beautiful farm. Look again, graphically. Look at that. Doesn't quite make sense. That's one thing I wish they might work. Like, this is clearly not a rice farm, even though this farm is built on rice. Oh, yeah, we have the tech, so I wish that this would turn into a rice farm because there was rice here, right? Basically just turns into like a grain producing farm. Like, it looks like corn or wheat. So we'll get the plow in there next turn. We also have a city project we need to decide on. Just gonna okay, let's grab units first. Ah, beautiful. So as I thought, coastline here, and look at this land. More goats, more sheep, more grapes. This is lovely. I really hope we don't have anyone too close to us over here, because I think actually right where the spot that our scout is standing on right now is arguably going to be a really good city center spot for us. We get adjacency to everything here. We're close to the coastline. We're pretty close to our capital city. And we get access to a bunch of really nice resources. If this has a bunch of zones in it, here is one of my bigger complaints that I think they really desperately need to address, and I didn't see it addressed in any of the patches as of yet. There is no way to tell how many zones is in this territory currently, except by having a settler out and using the settle feature to open up that map. There is no zone. You can't see zones in any of the overlays. If you click on a territory, you can click, what is it? View detailed information about regions. So we can click on a region. This is the screen that arguably would be easy to add it to, right? So here's the region. So this is the territory we're standing in, but I can't tell how many zones are in there. And that makes a difference because I can't do much planning until I know how many zones are in a particular area. So if this has 5 or 6 zones, it's a great city center. If it has 2 zones, it's a horrible city center, and I would never put a city there. So I can't know that until I actually have a settler built currently. So if someone knows how to make zones pop up somehow magically, or if they've patched that since launch, or it wasn't during the beta either, or the alpha test that I was part of wasn't a thing either. That would be a really nice quality of life improvement that Oxide Games could put in if they would show. Give me a button I can click so I can see how many zones are in each territory. That would be really fantastic. I would enjoy that a great deal. So anyway, we got a plan maybe for a second city here. Let's keep moving in this direction. We'll move over here. We'll keep cutting along the coast. And then maybe once we get out here just a little bit, we'll cut back up again with this guy. I don't want to get too far away, so we'll just kind of cut through the fog. We'll kind of maybe work our way like back and forth, exploring. Again, our spearman is going to do the work over here as well. I'm going to move into this territory. We'll do this hunt first, just to, again, get a little more exploration done. We'll pop over here. There's a lot more hunts to be done down here eventually as well. So our spearmen will be very busy down here as we go. All right, our city is also idle. We have some choices to make now. We are growing in 6 turns. Our dwelling costs 5 to build, so not a big deal. We don't have to get a dwelling right now. So we could get another scout, but now that I kind of know what's happening in our territory, I'm not like pressed on the scout necessarily. I don't feel like the scout is something I like have to have because we're kind of like in a corner, it looks like. If we are in a corner, which we'll find out maybe a couple turns, I don't really have to have another scout immediately. Now, eventually I want to be able to explore a little faster maybe. So I'm going to hold on a second scout, which maybe is a bad play at this point. But what I'm actually going to do is, I think, roll into an early settler build and get that second city out in that spot because it looks really, really nice. It's going to cost us 125 food, which is the majority of what we saved up so far. But it will get us the ability to get that second city up and running very quickly. So I'm going to go into a settler, actually. That's going to take us probably to where we have to build a dwelling, or we'll be close to needing that dwelling build. And we'll also be close to getting that granary when we grow at that point as well. So we'll have a lot of kind of choices to make at that point. But I think settler, and then again, I think this spot looks really nice for a city. And we want to get that claim out fast in case there's a land grab that happens with any neighbors that we might have. All right, let's progress to another turn. Our plow is complete. That's good, because we just went from negative 18 back to plus 7 on our wealth, which is nice. And we now know that we have some bison over here. That's nice as well. And now we start to see, like, maybe it might curve here. It might not. And so we have a little bit of a conundrum now, because now it's like, well, should we have gone with that scout and maybe popped over here? We'll see. We're going to do a hunt on this turn. We'll hunt, and then we'll go do maybe a little exploring. I want to get this wolf cleared just so that we have access to this territory, all the zones in that territory when we get there. But it's going to get, I'm hoping that this stops. I don't mind if it goes out a little bit and then stops with no neighbors in it. But if there's a neighbor over here, then maybe I have a problem with it. All right, let's get right away. We know that we have, right, our plow has been crafted. This plow is going to get us that 50% harvest production. We definitely want that in as quickly as possible. We get much more food and grain out of that. We'll also be able to have grain is being produced at 1 per turn, right? So that's pretty nice. We'll start to add to our grain reserves. So there's the plow that's crafted. Our units are idle, sitting there, and there is that. And then let's like cross. Let's cross to here and then go up, right? I think we cross to here and then we'll follow this river up. Let's go this way, actually. Cancel that. Let's go here. We'll go here. I think that'll allow us to see what's in the water, and then we'll cross, because this can cross up into this territory, and then we'll be able to see a little bit more. So we'll go down and then up. That guy. Oh, we have a new event. We haven't seen many events. I'm excited. Events are very fun in the game, so let's check this out. A forest fort.
No older than 16 enters your court, springing with excitement. He explains that he and his friends were climbing trees, and while sitting atop a giant oak, he spotted a raised and unnaturally round hill and smoke, as though from a campfire rising in the distance. He requests support to safely investigate.
Correct. So we have our event. We now have 3 options. We can ignore it, which probably doesn't seem like a great thing to do. We can send a scout, which costs us minus happiness in our city. I do not like taking happiness penalties in my cities. That reduces my production. Production is very important. But it does net us 5 jewelry, which is huge. You've seen how expensive it is and how long it takes to craft jewelry. 5 jewelry, huge. 5 ceramic pots, which we cannot even craft right now. So really, really valuable to choose one of these. We can arm the boy and his friends, which gives us minus 10 security in the capital for 10 turns. We still get the 5 jewelry and the ceramic pots. We are not training military units right now, so our security is not very concerning to me. Happiness is. I'm going to choose to arm the boy and his friends and send them to go investigate. So minus 10 security in my capital, but we're going to get that jewelry and those pots. That's going to be nice for us. We're going to take that right away. We have an idle crafter because we built that plow. We're going to want to eventually get more plows out. We're also 4 turns away from being able to craft rope out of here. We're also going to build a dwelling here at some point. So there's a lot of potential options. Our next building that we're going to build is a granary, and I actually don't remember what buffs a granary, like probably lithic tools, I would bet. A lot of buildings benefit from lithic tools. So let's go ahead and craft a lithic tool really quick. We may want to... a lithic tool in 3. I mean, that's fine. Let's keep everything moving. I don't mind spending some of our gold, but we're still making 3 per turn. It's not awesome that we're spending... How much are we spending? 2 and 2? We're spending 4 gold per turn building these, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end to do that, right? We also want to build a rope as quickly as possible to put into our workshop. So as soon as we get access to rope, which is in 4 turns. So actually, if we didn't build this for 4 turns, that wouldn't be the worst. Perhaps we take that out. Go 5 turns. Maybe we put it in on the last turn to get it out on the right turn with that. We'll see. Let's just do that. We'll do that for now so we get a little bit extra gold production over the next couple turns. Okay. I think we can get 1 more turn in. Let's do 1 more turn. We'll finish our hunt over here. Got a cache discovered. Okay, perfect. So that's actually kind of exactly what we wanted. So we did get to see some of the water over here. We can see that this curves back out. And now we can make our move into here. Grab this cache on the next turn. We still have not run into any neighbors. We have not seen any other scouts. Now, keep in mind, the light area here, that's what we know. We see this, right? The heavy fog is where we haven't explored at all. We have updated information on the area that's light. The area that's dark, anything could be happening in there. We wouldn't know, right? That's how the map kind of functions in this game. I do want to come clear this before we go over here. So I am going to have the spearmen move in. We're going to go ahead and get that wolf on the next turn. We've got the cache. We're taking care of that. We got 1 fur and 5 food from the wolf. We only lost 5 health again, so our RNG for this spearman is going very well. And we have a new event that has procced as our final thing, and a paragon available as well. So we'll have a couple things to talk about here at the very end of the episode.
Historians speak of a great lighthouse lost to time. One with a light so brilliant, it could be seen halfway across the world. Such a marvel might be a myth, but if a nation could make such a thing real, that would be a sight to behold.
So as you go through each of your acts, the act will have certain goals which will net you large amounts of prestige. A lot of them center around building a particular building, usually a triumph. In this case, it's building the Great Lighthouse. Nice thing about Ara is, you're like, the Great Lighthouse, what's that going to take? You can hover over it, and in fact, if you click on it, it will open up the Encarta, and you can actually look up all the information about it. But it actually tells you, right, we need pots, we need metal tools, we need wheels to be able to build the Great Lighthouse. And you can see the benefits that it gives you. +3 available merchants, which is actually a pretty big deal. And +2 sight to sea forces. So the Great Lighthouse is a pretty decent triumph as well. So every time you just press the accept button, it goes into your goals. It's one of those things you can do to get more prestige in that particular. And we now have access to our first paragon. And so paragons is something that I think is going to take a little bit to talk about. Because we are coming up on the end of the episode, I want to make sure that I give due diligence to paragons. So I'll give you that as a little teaser for paragons. And what we'll do is we will save here with just the paragon to choose. Paragons are a really fun and kind of interesting part of Ara History Untold. And so we will open our next episode by talking about the paragons in turn 18 here in our game as Mexico with Benito Juarez. Thank you all so much for joining us for episode 2 of our Let's Play Ara History Untold series, where we're learning the game, we're exploring the game. At the start, the next episode, we'll get to pick a paragon, and we're about to expand, we're about to get a settler, things are moving along in our game. I'm very excited to continue this with you. If you like the content, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and that you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on so you know when we release these videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.